Early voting for next week's primary election is underway, and right now politicians are asking for your support. Before you make your decisions, you may be curious to know who's funding their campaigns. State law requires candidates tell you just that, but we've discovered some do not follow the rules and never file finance details.
KXAN investigator Jody Barr found the state hasn't always held political candidates accountable for breaking the law. It's something never even brought up until we started asking questions.
Yep, and when they failed to file finance records, these men, they racked up fines. The man owing the third most at $22,000, Chris Crystal, a former state Senate candidate from San Antonio. You'll meet him later. In second, Big Ben lawyer Anthony Foster Jr., who ran for a judgeship, he owes $30,000. But the man with the most outstanding debt, a sitting Texas House member, Representative Ron Reynolds, currently owes $52,000. When you get a fine, you're supposed to face consequences if you don't pay. But we've discovered the agency in charge hasn't always been making people like these guys pay up. You know, Mr. Reynolds? Hey, I'm Jody Barr with KXAN. Yes. We've been trying to get a hold of you for several weeks. Our analysis of State Ethics Commission data shows Representative Ron Reynolds failed to file 8 separate campaign reports since 2015. To find out why, we called, we emailed, but he never replied. Do you plan to pay these fines?
Yes.
Do you plan to file the reports?
They gave me 10 days to pay it or make arrangements.
This is Chris Crystal, the man who's number 3 on our list of people who haven't paid up. Something he says came as quite a surprise since his campaign raised no money.
I called and they said, yeah, you didn't do your personal financial statements. I said, okay. I said, well, I mean, I didn't raise $1, so what do I need to do? And she goes, oh, it's long past that. You got to go to court now.
Crystal says he tried, but the commission would not waive his fines. He now owes nearly $22,000 for failing to file the required finance reports when he ran for Senate back in 2012. I mean, these dates are known. You do admit you missed them, you violated.
Absolutely.
And he's not alone. We found 264 candidates on the state's debtor list. 3 current Texas House members, Representatives Donna Dukes, Nicole Collier, and Ron Reynolds. There are also 5 sitting district court judges and 80 attorneys.
The Texas Ethics Commission will come to order.
The Texas Ethics Commission has 2 options when candidates fail to file financial forms: civil fines and, in extreme cases, a criminal charge. Specifically, the commission can refer debtors to prosecutors when they don't file this form. But in the past 5 years, that only happened 26 times. Ron Reynolds, not one of them. We asked the commission chair why. Could you tell us why this representative, for example, has not been referred to prosecution when it's clear by his record he has made a habit of not filing these reports?
Yeah, I just don't know about this matter at all. I'm sorry. Any matters regarding complaints like this initially are confidential.
If we say we believe in transparency, well then this is step 1 in all of that. File your reports.
Representative Celia Israel sits on the House Elections Committee, which helps write campaign finance laws. One of her fellow committee members, Ron Reynolds.
It is ironic. It is unfortunate. It puts a stain on the honor of those of us who are simply trying to do the best we can for our constituents and for the state of Texas.
What would you say to this representative if he was in here today about complying, paying his debt to society?
Anybody who disregards the rules is letting themselves down, is letting their constituents down, and is letting the rest of us down who are trying to follow the rules.
Despite his unpaid fines, Reynolds is running for office again, and so can anyone on this list.
What you're unearthing may involve a bill so that we put more teeth or more structure to a situation, in which case the interim hearing is a good time to ask these kinds of questions. One angle might be, no, you don't get to be on the ballot again until you clear this.
You raised these questions, and because of that, we were happy to have it briefed today. And thank you so much for bringing it to our attention. It was very nice of you.
It was the $17,000, and the second case was one.
Meanwhile, Chris Crystal is slowly working to pay his debt to Texas.
This is a 40-year payoff. If I'm hoping I hit the lottery or something so I can pay these guys. They don't play, and I'm making payments. And if you want to see mine, I'll show you every little bit I got. I'm not lying. If I'm lying, I'm dying.
As for the two men at the top of the list, they are not being prosecuted. Just 2 weeks after we caught up with Representative Reynolds at that committee meeting, he turned in his finance forms. But he is making payments on his debt, sort of. That's because the state is seizing his legislative paychecks. It doesn't look like Foster is paying back anything right now, and we have not been able to track him down to ask why. Our investigation did find the Ethics Commission referring some debtors to the Attorney General's office for collections, $1.2 million in the past 5 years, of which the AG's only collected about $300,000 so far.
Well, what happened to the cases that were prosecuted?
Well, Robert, I can tell you that only 9 were ever charged. 7, though, were dismissed.
So why aren't more prosecuted?
Well, by law, the commission is supposed to have a system in place to refer cases to court. Now, there is a decade of gaps in the commission's records, so they cannot tell us whether they ever referred anyone for prosecution between 2005 and 2013. For the last 5 years, the commission's been experimenting with a system, but tonight, just weeks after we brought this issue up, a new permanent system is in place for criminal referrals.
Jody, we know you'll be staying on top of the commission's progress.
Yes, and I promise to follow up with Representative Israel and the rest of the House Elections Committee for you too.
All right, Jody, thank you. And if you want to see the 264 people on the state's debtors list, before you head to the polls, we've posted them all in this story in the investigative section of KXAN.com right now.